Just want to make a quick announcement. We are here on YouTube, but just want to say we are also now on
uh, Apple Podcasts and Spotify.
Yes, find us on Spotify, Apple Pod. Listen to us there. If you're not already listening to us there, go ahead and follow us. We'll put the links in the description.
Give us a follow, rate. It all helps.
Yes, you can do your laundry and listen to us now. Bye. All right, it is a Feel Good Tuesday. We are back on the Deep Dig, a sports pod. I am Drew, your host. My other host over there is...
What's up? I'm D.
It is Tuesday late afternoon. And I'm just letting you know right now, it's my day off, and I just cracked open a cold one. I had to. This Sierra Nevada sunny little thing.
I was going to say, that's a fucking LaCroix.
No. Don't be dissing LaCroix, by the way. My go-to drink right now is LaCroix vodka. And it's really living up to the hype for me. I mean,
that's a choice. That's a definite choice.
It's doing well. I get bad looks when people see it, but you know, I'm just gonna live my truth.
It's a choice. I don't know what to tell you. That's your life.
Let's just dig right into these topics for the week. We're gonna start off with Deebo Samuel landing in San Francisco with his trainer. Thoughts?
So just like the trainer, we about to get paid. He's caught on camera saying that. Yeah, I mean, I feel pretty good. I think we all knew that this was going to be like what happens. Now it's just about timing. I know people have said in the past that, hey, this is the track record of the 49ers. They do deals at training camp. Now it just comes down to, what are they really waiting for? Are they waiting for Jimmy Garoppolo to be off the books to do like a real like front end type of deal? Are they looking to do something, tricky? Or is it just like, hey, you know what? We wanted for you to be here in person. Now it's our time. Let's go ahead and roll with it. What are your thoughts?
But that's my thing is, I don't think Jimmy's deal affects Deebo's deal at all. I don't think Jimmy getting off the books this season affects the Deebo contract talks, unless they are going to front load the shit out of it. And there's this they scrap this season for some reason and of the contract, and they pay him a crazy amount. I don't think that affects. They would just put that in the bonus, or they would put that into next season's part of the deal. I don't think.
You're right. Honestly,
I don't think those coincide.
It doesn't affect his contract now that I'm thinking about it, because Deebo still has to play out this year, and then he would see his contract extension next year. So that money would hit next.
And those would obviously come with like guarantees right off the top, which won't go into the salary cap this season. Give us some salary crap. Hey, thanks for clicking on this video and watching this far. Sorry to interrupt, but just want to let you know, if you could like, comment, and subscribe to our channel, it would really help us out. All right, thanks. Now, here's us again.
But do you think they are thinking about like, hey, let's chop some of this money up. If we're going to have Jimmy on the books, let's have him for 13 mil this year and X mil next year. And make it a more reasonable contract. And that way it's easier to ship out. Maybe they're doing some finagling there.
I mean, we've seen in the past people try to hold on to players and do that deal, or just be like, okay, well, if we're going to cut up this contract and keep Jimmy as a backup this year, or I hate to say it, but as a starter this year, and we do trim his contract in half, put half of it on next season and cut him next season or trade him next season, then that's like more money off the books for the Niners. So I could see that happening in some weird scenario where Jimmy can't get another team. The Niners don't want to move off him. They don't think Trey's ready. I mean, maybe this could be we really walked around the whole block to get to this affecting Deebo's contract in that scenario.
But all these things are a possibility.
But yeah,
if I were to tell you that was the scenario that plays out, would you be surprised?
I'd be a little surprised, but just from Jimmy staying on the roster this season, but I wouldn't be surprised like contract wise, like negotiation. If we took the players' names out of it, if we were just playing, this is a good lead in. If we were just playing Madden and like we were able to restructure contracts like that and not worry about players' feelings, I would totally do this. But when you're dealing with the locker room and like the leadership presence between Jimmy Garoppolo and Trey Lance, like I don't see this working out to where Jimmy stays. But it's a possibility at this point.
Yeah, I mean, it's again, if we want to talk about the offseason as a whole, there was two things on the list before anything. It was get rid of Jimmy Garoppolo and pay Deebo Samuel. And so far they've done neither. So I don't know. We'll see how it continues to play out.
Okay, but to be fair, let's get into this. Would you pay top dollar for the 13th best receiver in the league? Madden rankings have come out. The Madden overall ratings have came out. And I think Deebo Samuel was at 89, 87?
87.
He was an 87. He was the 13th ranked receiver. And it's just weird how I don't remember like a lot of like these sports talk shows going off and blowing up about Madden, but I think this is like such a dead time for news stories. I've seen every single sports personality talk about these Madden rankings, and there's a lot of debate going around. What do you think about the 13th spot for Deebo?
I would be hard pressed to say that there are 12 other wide receivers in the league that I would take over Deebo Samuel. I think it's pretty ridiculous that he's 13th. I could see. No, I can't see it. No, there's no way. I was going to like make up some shit like, oh, based off of, stats this year. No, like he was his stat line as if we take out the rushing, just as a receiver was really good. So it's like, you've seen flashes of what he can do consistently as a number one option. And now he's actually going to get more of that with Trey Lance. So it's like shit should be moving up the ladder for him, not like backing down.
Yeah, I think just seeing this from a Madden point of view, I can kind of see the argument. I'm not saying that he's the 13th best receiver. I think he's top 5, and we can discuss where we think he ranks. But I think Madden rankings are different than what the player is actually. I mean, Jamar Chase is like the 20th ranked receiver on this list on Madden. And I think Madden just factors these like obscure ratings in differently to where they don't know where the overall is going to fall until they put all these pieces in. So I think if you look in the video game sense, I mean, we've been playing Madden since before we liked football. Like me and you have grown up playing Madden. We know the game. There's all kinds of stats, and you're factoring in like the running, the jumping, the route running, like everything. And I think in Madden terms, you can break down Deebo's like, okay, maybe he's shorter, maybe he has like a low injury rating, maybe his route running is lower than other receivers, and you just have these little things that knock him down to where in real life it's like this guy's a baller. Like these factors don't matter in real life.
I see that as viable, but I also think it's bullshit when you take like the big picture approach. If you were to look at it and just like, okay, here's our rankings. Now let's zoom out by position. And it's like, oh, wait, like, no, this guy should be above this guy, this guy, this guy, Terry McLaurin, Keenan Allen, Mike Williams. Yeah, I think it's Mike Evans. Mike Evans.
I think there is this outside view by the Madden people where they don't think of football in the same way as football people think of it. They're simply looking at like, what do we rate this player at this specific thing? And then they add all those up, and it's like that doesn't translate into like these rankings are not the same as like the PFF top player rankings. They're just weighted completely differently.
I get that, but if you're gonna take,
so I don't put much stock into it.
Out of wide receiver stats, it'd be like, okay, well, what it's catching, which all right, let's he's had some drops. Let's go ahead and get that straight. But it's also acceleration, change of direction.
The boy got burst.
And then I would put in power because then his like yards after catch and yards after contact.
Where do you think that Deebo would rank in Madden as a running back though?
As a running back, pretty high.
I think he'd be about that like 85 to 89 range too as a running back.
Yeah.
I mean, the list is just ridiculous. Like, yeah, we can debate the top 5. D-Hop's is number 4. I think that could be
Right.
argued just off of just based off of his last season that he wasn't there.
Right.
Um, Justin Jefferson is number 6. I mean, he didn't have that big of a splash as much last season. I think
But
he's still top
he's a
10.
certified
Yeah,
badass.
yeah, yeah. But I think it could just arguing against Deebo season. Come on. Mike Evans is number 7. And then we get into like the tie for number 8 is Terry McLaurin and Keenan Allen. Those guys should not be top 10. I think Terry.
Those 3 guys should not be there. Mike Evans is there because he's like big as fuck. That's it. Like, have you even seen like their playoff run, both this season and last season? He had some drops.
Yeah. I could see in Madden, you just throw it up to Mike Evans, he'll go up and get it. I mean, that's 90, certified 90 right there. Terry, I actually thought that he should be top 10, and you were like pushing back against me, like this guy's not top 10.
Yes. So I seen someone post Terry McLaurin stats and Darnell Mooney stats. That Darnell Mooney actually smoked him. He had like pretty much the same thing, but he's had terrible, terrible quarterback play. And you can say the same thing about Terry McLaurin, but Terry McLaurin had some like gunslinger types that weren't afraid to throw it deep. And that's like made him look a lot better. I'm not saying he's like, oh, he's not up to that stat level, but if a guy like Darnell Mooney, who's just basically like running slant routes and like, hey, he's getting open on wide, like on nines, but no one.
He's basically the only guy.
Yeah. So it's like, all right, well, this guy's stat line is way better.
I mean, all I have to see is that over the shoulder Terry McLaurin catch, like the over the shoulder falling down behind his back catch, and I got to put him top 10.
But I mean, think about your Madden roster. Who would you want? Would you want Terry McLaurin or would you want Deebo Samuel?
Oh, give me Deebo. Give me Deebo every time.
Would you want Mike Evans or would you want Deebo Samuel?
Deebo Samuel every time. If I get the right playbook where I can run those end arounds, I could throw some quick wide receiver screens. Give me Deebo. I mean, according to Madden, Amari Cooper is number 10.
Bro, his team didn't even want him.
A guy that got traded.
Browns.
A guy that got traded for a 5th round pick a couple months ago is the 10th best receiver on Madden.
Yeah, I'm gonna no.
All right. On that note, we're just gonna say Madden is. I could go on and on all day complaining about Madden, and we'll just get past that. Next, we're gonna talk about Jimmy Garoppolo, still in the news, still on the 49ers roster. Reports had come out about the Bucs being potentially a team, then the Seahawks potentially being a team. Now we have reports that there is a connection between Jimmy G and the Giants. Dable was in New England when Jimmy was there. There's a connection there. Daniel Jones is going into a season where they're not sure what his future is going to be. They're going to re-sign him. They're going to pick. I don't think they picked up his option yet.
That was a hot drop. They were like, nah.
So what do you think about Jimmy to the Giants?
I think it's viable. I think obviously you've seen what he can do. I think we talked about this last week too, as far as him fitting in with the Brown system. He also can fit into Dable's system. I mean, just look at what Dable is going to want to do. He's going to want to run the rock with Saquon. They don't really have a lot of like big play options as far as their wide receivers. So it's going to be a lot of over the middle and scheming to get people open, which is what Jimmy Garoppolo can do. Of course, you're going to get those like, what the fuck picks every once in a while where it's just like, where was that going to? But it's way better than what you have as far as Danny Dimes.
Yeah, I think I'm not really a Danny Dimes person. I don't really believe in Daniel Jones. I think Jimmy is actually a good fit with that roster, with that team. To have Saquon just, be the workhorse. And they have some weapons at receiver. They got Kadarius Toney, Darius Slayton, Sterling Shepard still. Didn't they just draft a guy too? They got Wendell Robinson from Kentucky.
Do they still have Evan Ingram?
They have Galladay, and I believe they still have Evan Ingram.
That's a nice piece to fit with Jimmy G.
That's like low-key a lot of weapons. No, I'm not seeing Evan Ingram on the depth chart.
Never mind.
Let me
Get him
let
a
me
tight end
let
and
me
let's
fact
roll.
check this. He's on the Jags now. Wow,
Fuck him.
that one just went
Yeah.
over my head. But yeah, Kenny Galladay is I think he's the legit number two, almost number one receiver, and they have a lot of young guys that they can work in. And
And look at
Andrew
Kenny
Thomas,
Galladay, his like builds and his like archetype is the same like type that Jimmy G really thrived with like Emmanuel Sanders that one
mhm.
year when he had that shootout in New Orleans. Like that's the type of guy he likes to roll with. And I think that that's a pretty good fit.
Yeah, and this line it's young, it's getting there. They just drafted Evan Neal. They got Andrew Thomas there. So I mean, I think this is a situation though where the Giants would not trade for Jimmy G right now. Say the Niners held on to Jimmy going into the season, I could totally see week 6, week 7 Jimmy getting traded to the Giants after like a disappointing start by Daniel Jones.
Yeah, I don't think it's like like again, it's a viable play option, but as far as the scenario going into it, it's Dable's first year. He can mess this up or he can tank and get a quarterback that he wants in the draft. Why risk that? But as far as like play on the field, like it fits pretty good. And I think too, if this were like a coach that was 2 or 3 years in and you were on the hot seat, you're like, yes, give me Jimmy G. Let's do it. On the other side of the field, we have the Jets with Zach Wilson. He's throwing bombs, he's banging moms. Like, we need something to bring people in. But I think right now people are just gonna like, hey, let's trust the process. Let's tank and let's get us a quarterback.
Yeah, I think it just comes down to this like weird in between zone where Jimmy is like, where other teams see Jimmy and they say, oh, yeah, he'll make us better. But then they look at what they need to trade and what they need to pay him. And they say, how much better will he make us? And is it worth it to give up this? When next year, there is going to be a lot of young quarterbacks coming in, and a lot of them have good potential, way better than Jimmy's. So yeah, I don't think the Giants are on this like cliff of we need to make the playoffs next year. I think they're more towards the bottom where they just want to see if Daniel Jones can become something or they can move on. So I don't see this really working out between the Niners and the Giants.
Where do you think, like, again, we keep
I
having
don't
this,
see.
where is Jimmy G
I feel
going?
like all these stories about these different teams are just the Niners leaking out teams and hoping that like another team bites. I feel like they're just trying to stir up someone to get desperate and trade for Jimmy G. That's
And
just from an outsider looking what I think is happening.
have you seen those reports that people are saying that the 49ers are not stopping teams from talking to Jimmy G about restructuring his contract?
Yeah, it's but they don't want his ass. So
Yeah, but it's like so weird because again, in it with a team that leaks nothing, these are getting leaked, and so it's like just it reeks of desperation at this
but
point. Like,
that's the thing
hey, we're
where
open to it.
I don't think these are like the Seahawks, the Bucks, and the Giants. I don't think those are leaks coming from those teams. I think these are targeted leaks from the Niners saying like, "Oh, Baker went to the Panthers. Okay, look at all these teams that want Jimmy. Like, who's gonna come get him? Who's gonna pay the most?" And there's literally like no one. It's like an Instagrammer, like an Instagram influencer that has all bot followers, and then they have like a meet and greet and no one shows up. Like
That
that's
one meme
that's the
where
Niners right now.
it's who want me, and it's 100% no.
Yeah. That's Jimmy right now. I mean, you would think if they're letting teams come talk to Jimmy, there'd be someone talking to Jimmy. I don't think anyone's talked to him.
Yeah, it's a bunch of teams right now that the ones that don't have quarterbacks are the ones who are like content to tank to get a quarterback. There's no team on the cusp again besides the Browns, but even then, like I think the Browns they're set up to fail anyways because they're the fucking Browns. But like that'd be the one team where you say like, all right, well they have a chance to compete. Their quarterback might be out for an extended period. I think that'd work. Um, yeah, nowhere else really. Maybe like this is like throwing it out. Maybe like if Marcus Mariota gets hurt, because Jimmy's like light years ahead of that rookie that they drafted.
Was it Desmond Ritter?
Yeah, it's Ritter. I
But
don't think he's going to work
I
out. I'm
don't
not
I
a big
don't
Ritter guy.
I don't think he's ready though. And are they willing to risk not throwing him out there just to try it? Because I think
Ritter?
they're ready to tank. They're tanking. So
Yeah.
would they give up assets for Jimmy G in order to like what win 5 games, 6 games? I don't see the team that wants Jimmy G at this point that isn't the Niners. Unless we cut him. And some team is like, all right, we'll bring him in.
If we cut him, that's a different story. Because again, Jimmy Garoppolo for his current contract is a hell no. Jimmy Garoppolo for $6 million, perfect. Like, oh, sweet spot.
Yeah. It's just a matter. We're not saying like Jimmy can't be a starter or Jimmy is a terrible quarterback. We're saying for the price and for the amount of assets you need to give up, he's not worth it at this point. But if he was like a free agent, like he'd be signed by now if he was a free agent.
Yeah, it's like that bottle of water that you like that's staring at you when you go to a hotel room. It's like, all right, well, yeah, I need water. I need to drink water. But then you look at the price and it's like $7 and you're like, I don't need water that bad. I'll go to the vending machine down the street. Like, fuck that.
But the hotel knows that.
Yep.
But you know what they're waiting on is for you to get home. You get to that hotel room at 3 a.m. drunk and dehydrated. And you pay for that water bottle.
Yep.
We're waiting on the Falcons or the Browns to come home at 3 a.m. drunk and dehydrated. We're waiting on that team. And it just hasn't happened yet. I mean, maybe it'll happen in training camp. I don't know.
Fingers crossed.
If not, I don't think it's going to happen during the season. I think Jimmy's going to be cut before that. So we'll see. And we'll keep you guys updated on that. All right, story came out. Robbie Gould has been talking about this new special teams. The 49ers did struggle last season. It was a big topic going into the playoffs on their special teams. So what have you heard? What did you see from the story that just came out?
Yeah, so he sat down and did an interview. He talked about how the special teams before, we all know it didn't really live up to standards. It was the one aspect of the team where Kyle had even talked about where he just says, don't lose us the game. That's pretty messed up to have that. So he was just talking about how they've had a bunch of new talent actually join the special teams team, and how it really just now that they've have a new coordinator and things are just working out a lot better than he had expected, and how he wants to be more aggressive on special teams. And he feels like now they actually have the personnel to do so.
Yeah, I think as much as the 49ers wanted to play it down that the special teams wasn't a big issue, they really, with their actions, made it clear that this is something that needed to be addressed. We didn't bring back our special teams coordinator first off. And then just by our signings, I think this is the real block when I look at the whole transaction list. This is the block of signings where I'm like, okay, we addressed this. We signed George Odom. We signed Oren Burks. We brought back Azeez Al-Shaair. We re-signed Jordan Willis and Dante Johnson and Jeff Wilson Jr. So those are all people that I'm like, Azeez, he's obviously our starter, a great linebacker, but he's also been on special teams a lot more than a regular starting linebacker would. Odom and Oren Burks are solid special teams players. I think Odom, that's what he's primarily coming in to do. And Jordan Willis coming off the edge on the punt team, Dante Johnson being a gunner, being someone that will cover the gunner on the returns. I think those are a lot of solid moves to try to solidify a really bad unit last year.
I just think there was no one that was reliable on that unit. I think it was a lot of like, oh, well, we have these people left over. And it was the way Kyle wants it is a lot of guys that will actually play said position. So if you're a wide receiver, you're good at being a wide receiver. And it's a secondary thought as far as, oh yeah, you play special teams too. But if you look at the signings, there's a lot of guys there like Ray McLeod. That guy's a specialist. It's like, if we just have, hey, let's not have Brandon Ayuk back there. Let's let him special. Let's let Ray specialize and just take kicks and punts. We're not going to have Trenton Cannon back there. We're not going to have just some where there's like a hint of there being like, is this gonna mess up? Let's just have guys back there that know exactly what they're doing.
Yeah, I think the Niners are a team where we did have a lot of injuries in like key positions that are important to the special teams, like receiver, defensive backs, like everyone in the secondary, running backs. We didn't have a specialist. That's our thing. We just didn't have specialists, and we were rotating in guys that are trying to focus on their starting position that week, and would come back and play special teams. They were just bouncing back and forth. I mean, really, the interior of the D line and the offensive line were the only solid part of our special teams because we had more of those guys. Uh, when you don't carry as many defensive backs, just like the Niners do, you're gonna have that issue of these guys get banged up, and then we're rolling out guys that are playing the whole game and doing special teams, or they were starting last week and they're banged up and they're playing special teams now. It's this never-ending rotating door, and you never get that like flow of the teams is feeling good. I remember back when I want to say like 2013, 2014, where they were playing Tony Montana every kickoff, and we had a unit that was like feeling themselves because they were always out there together. They were being proud of their special teams unit rather than saying, "Oh, now I have to go play special teams because there's injury," you know?
But that unit too was a lot of older guys that knew like, hey, we're going to take pride in being on the special teams unit because we know that if we win here, like if you just a big play on special teams makes such a huge swing, especially if it's a really even matched like game. I mean, just look at the Packers game. How ironic that it was won by a special teams like play when the special teams had been the scapegoat the entire year. And I think that's a good building point for that special teams unit to take that, what they did last year on that play, and to build off that and take pride in, hey, you know what? That's going to be our standard moving forward. We're going to change games. We're going to make sure that we give wins rather than give away losses.
Yeah, I totally agree. And do you think it is a matter of like being okay in your role and knowing like, hey, I'm coming in here to be a backup, be a special teams player, and I'm going to do that to my fullest of my ability? Like, I think our positions, our starting lineup is more well defined and the roles are more defined this season. Like George Odom, we're bringing you in. We want you to do some special teams work. Daquiz Denard, if you make the roster, you're going to be a special teams guy. Like all these guys, Oren Burks, like we're filling out that bottom part of the roster where we're saying, hey, we want you to contribute in this way. Not we want you to come in and like necessarily fully compete for the starting job, but be ready for this position.
Yeah, I think that's what the like bottom half of the roster is there for. It's one, preparation and making sure that, hey, like we're competing with these guys and not just to make us better, like as an individual, but to make the other player better when they go out on the field. And at the same time, it's like, all right, well, any way that I can get on the field, let me make an impact and let me take pride in that. Remember when they had Josh Norman playing on special teams and he just looked like he didn't give a shit and ran a fake and he was just nowhere to be found.
Yeah.
That's the type of stuff that like the special teams unit was just constantly getting away with. I think now with the change in their coordinator, these new guys coming in that are older vets that already have pride in that special teams unit are going to come in and just be professionals about it.
Yeah, I think it is a lot of people that are like just ready to take on that role and then step up if need be on in other positions. Like who was the wide receiver we picked up from the Cardinals last year?
Sherfield.
Like, do you think he was going into every game thinking, all right, what are my responsibilities on this kick coverage? What do you think I want to do when I'm a gunner? Like he wasn't worried about that. The wide receiver position was like still so wide open at the beginning of the season. We didn't know Juwan Jennings was going to step up like that. Like everyone was kind of fighting, like specifically in the secondary and the wide receiver positions, everyone was fighting for those spots.
Well, and he had built up a rapport with Trey Lance. And I believe that was his first touchdown, right? Wasn't it to Sherfield?
I believe so. Yeah. It was like a long pass. I think broken coverage, but still.
Yeah, but still. So it's like, yeah, there you are right. There is that, like, hey, I can still be an impact player on this side of the ball rather
Yeah.
than, just being a special teams guy and like just
Like
specializing on that.
that's something that I think like the Warriors, not to go too far from football, but the Warriors, like why they're so great is they bring in these guys that are role players and they're like, listen, this is what you're gonna do for us. This is what you're good at, and this is what we want from you. Exactly like word for word. That's what we want. And that's what they keep churning out these like role players, these bench players that become amazing for 1 year, go get big money, and they're not the same on other teams. Cause then they'll see they see these guys like outside of the role trying to do more, and they're just not that. Like we just want role players to do their role, kind of a very New England Patriots style.
Yeah, but I mean, when it doesn't come from the top, like if that's not the like example set, Kyle should have fired the special teams coordinator earlier in the year. But if you let stuff like that slide and you let guys keep their job, that's the product that you're going to put out. And again, we got super lucky that the special team showed up for that Packers game and was the difference, but that wasn't the standard for the year. We've seen that time in, time out. Like that was the unit that was going to get us an L.
I mean, at the end, they got us a W. So, I mean, can't complain too much.
There was a lot of games where we could complain a lot. So,
yeah. All right. We'll just move on to the next story. Fred Warner, one of the best linebackers in the league, according to Aaron Rodgers, the best linebacker in the league, went on Rich Eisen show and had a lot to say about Trey Lance, basically saying his praises, saying how well he's handled this whole situation, how mature he is, and said he's ready to take on that leadership for the team. What are your thoughts about everything that he had to say?
Yeah, I mean, that was Fred Warner has been a guy who's been speaking highly of Trey Lance, even going back into last year. So it's not surprising, especially considering that I think he's seen like the talent levels of both him and Garoppolo. And remember back when Jimmy Garoppolo threw 4 straight picks at that practice?
Yes.
Warner was a guy who picked, I believe, 2 of those balls. So he understands, the cap, and he's competed at the highest level his entire career. He's just been one of those guys that's just a worker. So I think he understands like, hey, we got something special here. And if we just nurture this, I think he could be great. And so it's really nice to hear it from another leader, but it means a lot when it comes from Fred Warner, the captain of that defense.
Yeah, I think it means a lot to hear from Fred and just hear how much he thinks of Trey. And I think it's going well. I mean, we have a great defense. The 49ers have a great defense. So to see Trey Lance compete against that every day and be good and make plays, I think he's earning the respect of the rest of the team. There is one instance during that interview that did kind of worry me. There's a moment where Rich Eisen asked Fred Warner, "Oh, so are we ready to say like this is Jimmy's team?" Something along the lines of that. Like, are we ready to like pretty much name him starter? Is this his team? And Fred kind of hesitated and he just said, "Oh, well, that's like on the coaching staff to handle. I'll let them. But I will say like Trey Lance is great." Like he didn't. Why are we still walking around this topic of like, is Trey Lance the starter or not? Why are the 49ers still not able to just say, yeah, Trey is the starter going into the season? None of the coaching staff has said it. The players obviously have been told not to say it. Like, why can't we just say Jimmy's gone and Trey's our guy?
Politics, man. It's all about politics. If people even like, I think again, they're so delusional when it comes to Jimmy Garoppolo. They're like, all right, well, if we hold our cards like close to the vest and we say, hey, we might keep him, we really like this guy, it's like, oh, maybe it's going to work. And it's not. It's not. Like everyone has a TV, everyone sees film. Like Jimmy is what he is at this point. And if there's a buyer, cool. And if not, hey, we need to be able to move on. They need to just say outright that Trey's going to be the guy moving forward. I think that's the right move. And you just let it be.
Yeah, I mean, Jimmy's not there. How much How much longer do we like? Is Jimmy going to show up to training camp and then we're still going to be like, we don't know, Trey's the guy. I don't know. Like, when is the right time to say, Trey, we fully believe in you. You're the star. Like, if you're going to announce that anyways, why haven't you done it already? Because we all know how much you invested in this kid. So why aren't you just like ready to embrace him fully in that way? Why do we have to keep on playing this? Oh, we don't know if maybe Jimmy could still be our guy. Like, is it hurting his trade value somehow? Because there's no trade market for him. So why are we still trying to kind of defend his starter role, his like leadership role within the team? He's not even on the team, really. If
I
you're
don't know.
letting someone talk to other teams about deals, you're not on the team. You're gone.
Yeah, I think they just need to come to grips with it. I think, but admitting that before Jimmy is actually gone, I think it's like all right, well, that's our L. But if they do it after the fact, it's like, oh, well, we made our move. This was the plan the whole time. It's like, oh, okay, well, we all know that's not the case, but like, take your pride aside, name Lance the starter. Warner has talked about him. Gold has talked about him. D'Amico Ryans talked about him as the guy and sang his praises. So let's just roll with that. Even Kittle, when he was on the I Am Athlete pod, he was talking about how this guy is just light years above anything he's seen in the league, and he has the potential to be one of the greats. So it's like, okay. And even when they asked, like, so is it him or Jimmy G? And he's like, I don't know. Like, let's stop beating around the bush here. Let's be adults and let's just say, hey, it was a good run. We are looking to transition out of Jimmy G. Trey is the starter.
Yeah,
Why is that so hard?
I think it is kind of a like saving face by like not saying Jimmy's not as good as Trey at this point. Like, kind of being like, oh, well, he's good. He could be our starter, but we have this guy and we got a better deal to get rid of Jimmy. So that's why we had to get rid of him, not because he sucks. But at what point do you keep pushing that back? And you better hope a deal happens, because the more you push it back and then you have to cut him, you're going to look even dumber.
And I think too, like, there's no shame in like just stating what the circumstances are. Hey, you know what? We like Jimmy. We think he's a good guy. We think he's a starter in this league. All those things can be true, but we are also really excited to roll with Trey Lance. We're really excited to have this guy get more experience and be the starter of our team, not just for this year, but for years to come.
Yeah, this feels like one of those things where they just like they got the new girlfriend, but they're putting off, like, they like a new girl, but they're putting off the breakup with the current girl, you know? Like, be like the Chiefs with the Alex Smith Patrick Mahomes thing. Just like, hey, Alex Smith, he's great for us. We're gonna find him a new spot. But either way, this Patrick Mahomes guy, that's our guy. He's
Yeah.
great. So you can, yeah, I think you can be excited for the new thing coming up and respect the former thing by just saying, being real about it. Like, look, realistically, we paid 3 first-round picks for this guy. We got him at the 3rd pick. We want to utilize his contract, his rookie deal. So yeah, we're gonna move on from Jimmy.
Yeah.
So I mean, I don't think anyone would be upset with that, other than like maybe Kyle and whoever ownership. Like, why are they still holding on to this idea?
I don't know. There are a lot of Jimmy stands still. Like, people are like ride or die with Jimmy.
But
I mean,
that
again,
that'll all
more power
change
to you.
once Trey gets on the field and a couple games pass. Like, I don't think anyone's really going to be thinking about Jimmy too much.
I don't know. I think there's going to be some contrarians out there like, see, I told you.
I think there will be if Jimmy goes and starts and is successful for another team, which don't really see happening. But if Jimmy's like on the bench somewhere, or like playing for a bad team and not playing great, I don't think anyone's really going to care.
See, I think there's going to be a hell of a lot of pressure on Trey Lance. And if he doesn't like immediately come out hot, people are going to be like, well, Jimmy would have won us that game.
But the thing is, there's going to be that pressure either way, regardless. Like, if Jimmy's contract was up last season and we just didn't renew his contract and we were like rolling with Trey this season, there would still be that storyline of like,
Yeah,
oh
but
man, maybe we should have brought back Jimmy on a tag, maybe, or next year. If like, either way, that like, we're gonna get to that storyline eventually.
Yeah, but the longer that you leave this Jimmy door open, the more it is a story, and the more that people are going to be like, yeah, we'll see. Well, we had this guy all the way through training camp. Why didn't we just keep him?
Yeah,
Or we had
that's
this
the
guy
thing.
all
Like,
through here. Like,
just
why not just have him? Why is he not the starter?
just rip the band-aid, get it over with, deal with the repercussions, and then move on. Like, that's what I think the Niners should do. But I guess they're waiting for a quarterback deal to happen, a quarterback injury for another team to make a trade.
In the famous words of George Costanza, like a band-aid, right off, Jerry.
And with that Seinfeld reference, we are done for the day. So,
peace. You made it all the way through this video. We really appreciate it. If you like this content, go ahead and hit that like button. Go ahead and follow for more. And feel free to check out some of these videos and subscribe to it.